call the roll?
Mrs. Bedford.
Here.
Mrs. Campbell.
Here.
Mrs. Epple.
Here.
Ms. Rich.
Here.
Mrs. Scott.
Hi. Ready for prom and all? Okay, the Pledge of Allegiance.
Okay,
That's a demerit.
put that on the board.
Somebody. CJ's getting a demerit.
Demerits.
Brian already got one.
Do we even do that? Do we do demerits?
I don't know, do we do demerits anymore? Like, kind of. You're getting an in-school suspension.
Right up here anyways.
There it is, found it.
Where is it? Oh, we got it, we got it. Ready?
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I can tell we're all in a mood today.
We are in a mood today. I believe we do have a public comment. Mrs. Chrissy Metz, okay. Which one do I do, the administrative content? Right here, right,
Yep.
the big one. Okay, we do have a public comment. So community comments are one way for the citizens to communicate with the Board of Education. When your name is called, please come to the podium and state your name, address, and topic. You will have 3 minutes to speak. Remember, this is a formal and official meeting of the Board of Education, and what you say becomes part of the official meeting record. If your comment involves a problem with a student, employee, or board member, please do not identify them by name. Keep in mind that we are meeting in a schoolhouse and in the presence of students. At this time, the primary role for the Board of Education is to listen and reflect on what is said. Sometimes we may respond or ask questions, but not always. Whether we respond or not, your input is valued.
All right, Chris Motz here to talk about the polar plunge.
Are you coming all the way up? She
Oh,
can,
yeah,
absolutely, yes.
Oh, no. There we go.
Thank you, Mr. Dauber, Streetsboro City School Administration, and all the staff who took the time to donate and support me for my polar plunge. I was able to raise over $7,000.
Oh, wow.
I won both categories, highest Special Olympic athlete fundraiser and the highest individual fundraiser overall. My team, Porter's Grin and Bread, raised over $12,000, making it the highest fundraising team at the plunge. The money for our team raised comes right back to Porter's County to support our Special Olympic athletes. Although I was not physically plunging, able to physically plunge this year, I want to give a special shout out to middle school teacher, our very own Cassie Kramer, first year plunger, who was kind enough to step in and plunge in my place. She did an awesome job. Thank you, Cassie. Thank you for believing in me and my cause, which benefits our local Special Olympics athletes such as myself. Again, thank you for all your support. Together we can make a difference.
Thank you, Chrissy. You are such an inspiration to all of us. And I think every dollar you raise and every time you do this, you are making a difference, so we're really proud of you.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I'll say something when I get it back.
Okay.
All right, we are moving on to approval of minutes. It is recommended the Board of Education approve the minutes from April 11th, 2024 and April 13th, 2024 as submitted.
I'll move. Second.
We have a first and a second. Any questions or comments? Hearing none. Mr. Haynes?
Mr. Hayes,
Well, I owed you that.
you got a new name.
Mrs. Campbell,
Haynes and Brad.
Yes.
Mrs. Upholm,
Yes.
Mrs. Bedford,
Yes,
Ms. Rich,
Yes.
Mrs. Scott.
Yes.
motion carries. Moving on to reports, we will go to the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Mrs. Bedford. While Mr. TV's coming up, TV Paul's coming up to give a report, Chrissy, I wanted to take this opportunity, since you're sitting, I wanted to be able to see you kind of through here, that I've enjoyed working with you all these years. You are an inspiration to me personally. You work so hard, you never give up, and the money that you've raised for the kids in the Special Olympics is a testament to you and what a wonderful young woman you are and the things that you do for that people don't even know about. So I personally wanted to publicly thank you that you have been a bright spot for me through the years, Chrissy. So nice job, okay? Okay, and then I'm going to ask Mr. TV Paul to come on up, and he's going to take the show from here.
It's a hard show to follow.
It is,
Christine.
sorry.
That is a rough one. I agree.
But we are privileged this evening to have a couple of special visitors here. We're going to talk about the historic season the girls' basketball team had. Everybody's very familiar with it. We're looking forward to another one next year. Put a little pressure on these guys. We have two-time Coach of the Year, Carl Singer, and his assistant coach, Brian Bedford, will be up here to speak about the season, some of the stats. Sydney's up here with them as well. So I'm going to turn this over to these guys. Phenomenal year. Congratulations to all of them.
Excuse me.
All right, not used to speaking in this format, but want to thank the board for inviting us over here today to talk about the season that we had. Most of the important people are not here, which are the players, a lot of them playing other sports and other obligations, but they're obviously the main people that make this all happen. To kind of quickly recount the season, the big thing for me is how proud I am of the work that we put in the off season, and that's where it really all starts. These girls are extremely committed to what they're doing, in the gym at 6 a.m., in the gym after school, just putting in the time to get to where they've gotten. And then throughout the season, we went 23-5 this year. It's been a little bit, so a little rusty on that. But it was a great run during the season. We were able to win our first conference championship in school history, and then had a really good run in the tournament. First time we've won a district championship, and then we're able to have a pretty big upset in the regional semifinals against St. V's to take us to the regional final, and one game away from state. Talking to some of the Portage County historians, that's as far as any basketball team in Portage County has ever made it. So we are very proud of the girls and what we accomplished this year, but we definitely plan on coming right back and doing the same thing again and hopefully taking a couple more steps. I tried to get her to talk, but she's going to be shy.
It's okay, you're my favorite player tonight, Sid. Don't tell anybody.
All right. Well, thank you guys again for having us. Very much appreciate it, and appreciate all the support we had from the community and everything this year. It was amazing to see how many people we had at those games, especially in the tournament run.
It was a great year.
One to
Thank you.
remember.
It's a great year, for sure.
Thank you.
I'm very much looking forward to next year.
Yes, very excited.
High
Se-
expectations,
Season's already
right?
started. Yes, high expectations, but we wouldn't have it any other way.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
As they're stepping away, I know that Coach Singer, I liked what he said. You know, he and Coach Bedford and the other coaches, it all starts in the hard work in the off-season, and that's how it comes all together. I was at the Jackson game, and Jackson is a D1 school, and they actually won their league in a D1 school, and we played with them. We were neck and neck with them the first half. They came out, they made some adjustments, and we were outplayed. But when I had talked to Carl before the game and then after, what he said was, he said that he matched up against a D1 school, wasn't sure how it would come out. He knew he had a good team. But he also said that regardless of the outcome, it's going to be a good test and a good learning experience for them, and that's going to help them prepare for a deep run. And from my perspective, I'm one of the best sideline bench coaches. I would never put myself in their shoes. I'm a great quarterback coach and everything. On Sundays, I'm the best. But from my perspective, that was a great plan. And he always drills back to, when you talk to him, he always drills back the hard work of the girls. And then one other thing I want to say, and this not only goes for our girls on this particular basketball team, I've heard time and time again how this group of girls are just amazing kids. And I know that they are just amazing kids. And I will say that about our school district in general. Mm-hmm. Every kid in this district that walks through the halls represents Streetsboro well. And they're amazing. And I've seen season after season, game after game, I don't care what sport, what performance it is, our students shine. So I just wanted to make sure I said that, but hats off to the girls team, Coach Bedford, Coach Singer, thanks for being here. Of course, thanks for the one player that's the favorite player of the night, and you can tell everyone Mrs. Bedford said that. So let's create some turmoil. It was on camera too. So thank you. So I don't know, does anyone else have any comments or?
I just want to say that, you know, we are so incredibly proud of our athletics program and the accomplishments. You know, winning, it isn't just about winning, it's about growing as a person, growing your skill. So it's not always winning state, but it's what got you to where, you know, you're growing as a person. And I think, you know, we see month after month in our meetings how amazing our students are in the district and the things that they're accomplishing. You know, there is nothing that's too small. And, you know, Chrissy, I know that you were, I'm sure, disappointed not to participate this year, which I think that's silly because it's cold when you do that. But I have to tell you, you are such a beacon of light for us. And we're very proud.
Yep, absolutely.
I get emotional when I do
It's okay.
this.
I should have Kleenexes.
I know, it's been a long time.
But thank you for allowing me to say that. Audience, anyone that's listening, anyone that will use this later, to give you a glimpse into future board meetings, I'll give you a little teaser. I think that you're going to see a little more of getting students up on stage and highlighting the great things that are happening with students. So there's a little teaser for next year. I will probably be watching from my couch just because I'm addicted and I can't stay away, but there's a little teaser. There's going to be a lot more of that. So that concludes my report.
All right. Okay. Mr. Treasurer.
All right.
Thanks, Mrs. Bradford.
Bradford
You were good.
and Hayes. That sounds like a law firm.
It does.
It does.
Yep.
Or an insurance firm.
Okay.
It does, doesn't it? I have to stop crying at meetings.
That's good tears, though. Those are the things to
I
cry
just get
about.
so, I'm so proud of everyone.
All right.
All right, first we're going to go over my report for the month really quick, and then we'll jump into the 5-year forecast. So first, there are 2 resolutions on the board agenda to renew our 3.5 mil levy and 3.9 mil levy. This is just the first resolution that has to be approved. If it is approved, I will be making sure that the next resolution is on in the June board meeting. So we can have those on for the November ballot. And this is just a renewal. It's not new money. It's money that's going to be the same amount. I have one appropriation amendment, and that's for the Permanent Improvement Fund. You guys have approved multiple projects that we just didn't budget for, and so I just need to increase our appropriations for that. And our general fund report. Still doing quite well. Our balance is higher than last year, and that's mainly because tax revenue and homestead rollback. We got our homestead rollback for the spring this past month. Any questions on that? Perfect. So we're going to the 5-year forecast. Some of this stuff is going to be rudimentary to start, but we have a few new board members, and so
Yeah.
it's better to go over some of this stuff.
Yep.
And next
agree.
time we'll cut some of it out. But first, the Ohio Revised Code and the Ohio Admin Codes basically say we have to submit a 5-year forecast twice a year, which includes general fund or any other fund like an emergency fund that if we had, we'd have to report on. The purpose of the forecast is to really let us do long-range planning, and it lets us to figure out if, when we pass contracts, if we're going to be okay financially. The problem with the 5-year forecast, it really is just like a snapshot, right? We're taking a picture today. If everything holds true, what it'll be. But as we know, things change. The last 5 years, COVID happened. State budget has switched twice. Biennial budget is coming up again. So it's a snapshot now, and that's why it changes so much, is things change throughout the year. So looking at our revenues and expenditures for the last few years, it's been close, but we've been actually collecting more money than spending. This is because of the 9 mil levy that we passed back in 2018. However, our costs are finally catching up to us going into next year, and this is just due to inflation and not having any new money during it, except for that 9 mil levy. For our revenue sources, we only get 23.6% of our funds from the state, meaning 76% is basically coming from taxes. Some districts our size are 50-50. We are sadly funded mainly by real estate taxes because the state believes we are a wealthy district. With state funding, we really are unsure of what to expect in the future. There are guarantees that are only guaranteed for now. There's no guarantee that they're going to be there in the future. So it's pretty much flat, but in the next biennial budget, that could change. This year, we're going through a tax reappraisal. We are projecting a 30% increase, but because we are above the 20 mil floor, we're not seeing a 30% increase to our revenue. I'm not going to go into detail of millage and all that tonight. I plan on providing that on our website soon to explain this, but we are not seeing nearly the increase that some counties are. House Bill 33, which is the current state budget, provided very little new revenue to us, and there's a temporary transitional guarantee, which means we actually receive more state funding than what the formula calculates. That could go away in any biennial budget. And that's going to be quite a bit of money that we'll be losing if that happens. Renewing our current levies is very critical. However, it still won't be enough to cover costs. And our current projected operating deficit in fiscal year 26 will be spending roughly $4 to $5 million more than we bring in, could land us in fiscal caution. If that happens, as you know, we'll have to submit a plan to the state on how to get out of it. Expenditures, we're at roughly 84.4% for salaries and benefits. State average and best practice is 80%. It's not too high, but it's growing, so next year that will be higher than 84.4%. As you can see here, this is another graph showing expenses going forward, and salaries and benefits continue to grow at a much higher pace than anything else. Deficit spending will begin next year in fiscal year 25. ESSER funds are being depleted, and that is bringing roughly $400,000 in salaries and benefits back to the general fund, as well as some purchase services.
Hey, Brian, on the ESSER funds, are there still areas we can spend that money?
All the money has to be spent by 6:30.
But we have areas, because I know there's strict things, like we can't just spend it on anything. But we have areas in the district that will be able to spend it, or are we going to lose some of it?
No, we're going to use all of that
We're-
money.
It's already allocated. Got it.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And expenses for special education students has really increased over the last few years.
Okay.
This is the quick summary. I sent you all a much more detailed version as well as a summary, but for this year, we should have a surplus of revenue over expenses, which is different than my fall forecast. The reason why is we did not factor in retirements from 2023 into this year. So all the people that we hired that were at a lower step weren't factored into our calculation in the fall. However, going forward, due to increases to salaries and benefits and inflation, we should start seeing deficit spending next year in the millions, and it continues to grow. GFOA suggests that we have 60 days of true cash balance at the end of each fiscal year. That basically means if you don't receive any cash, how many days can you operate? Going into fiscal year 24 or 25, we'll have 131, 106 at the end of next year, and then we're below that if we don't renew the levies. So once again, it's imperative that we renew those levies. And if we do renew them, then we're at 66 days in fiscal year 26, and then we're below the recommendation starting fiscal year 27. Questions?
I think more of a comment. I mean, for the public, anyone that's looking at this, or if they go back and look at this, that these are discussions we're having, internally on how we move forward, the best way to do that, what we might have to ask of our community, what we don't have to ask. So just want, people to know that we're taking this very seriously. We've done really well with the money that our community has graciously voted and approved, and we'll continue to do that. But, this is just where we are right now, and with inflation, we were bound to have to do something.
And I mean, there was historic inflation in the last
Yeah.
few years, so it's catching up to
Yeah,
everybody.
and the sad part is, we're a business just like anything else. I mean, unfortunately, most of our funding is coming from our tax base. I mean, we don't have the state committing or giving us enough to operate, and that's one of my biggest frustrations. There are requirements of us to educate and provide services and do a lot of things that unfortunately we don't get reimbursed for, and it's coming out of our salary dollars. As Kristen said, we're definitely taking this seriously. And we've spoken, I know Brian, about this. Our intention is to make sure that the community is educated as we move forward. The information's on the website like it was last time to provide information, contact information of those individuals that can answer questions intelligently. And, we know, we understand, we all have been victims of the inflation the last several years, and we know it's hard, but, this district and the kids we're gonna need the renewal. So,
May I add to that?
yes, please.
I think the slide that Brian put together, I love it. He had a bar graph ending cash balance without the levy renewals and then with.
With.
I think that graphic is a really good one because when I took over as superintendent, CJ and I were struggling at times to make sure that we had enough to cover payroll for 1 month, and there was concern even at times that we would have to take a loan out to cover payroll. And so when you look at 60, if we assume the passage of the 2 renewals, which public, it's critical that we get our 2 renewals in November, that keeps us above that 50-day mark of being able to true cash balance. That puts us back up to 66 days. But again, acknowledging what both our president and vice president and Brian said, It's critical that we analyze our spending moving forward. We get those renewals, we analyze our spending moving forward, and to keep everyone informed so that you can see what we're trying to do to address that increasing expenditures with a declining revenue, because that 9 mil levy is only collecting 6.8 mils now, and it might even be lower than that now.
It was
So that's
7.4
important.
last year, but after this 30%, will be under 6.
Okay, so I knew, so that's really critical for the people to understand, and Brian and Cindy and CJ and the board will do a nice job of answering any questions that come out there. They're transparent, they're not gonna keep anything from anybody, and I think we were pretty successful, CJ, last time when we put the portal on the website to allow people to ask questions, and we answered every single one of them. So I just wanted to make sure I said, Brian, great job on that slide, the ending cash balance with levies public. That's a critical one to look at.
Well, and just to shout out, I mean, you have picked up where Kyle left off with the financial committee, and
Agreed.
The last 2 meetings have been great. The feedback from the members that came were great. Some of it we anticipated, and others I was actually walked away feeling a little bit more confident in how we could approach the public. So I hope more people, raise their hand and want to come to that, because it's a great way to really understand what school districts go through in a forecast, and the questions that are asked by people that in our community that have been around a long time and know the right things to ask. So,
And this situation isn't unique to us. It's every
Oh,
public
right.
school district in the state of Ohio. I mean, it's the challenges that we have. We don't make widgets, and we can sell more widgets or make them cost more when we sell them. We're educating little humans who are going to run the world one day, and we want to make sure that we're doing the best that we can for them. And kudos to and thank you to our administrative team for, we have been very responsible with the spending of the dollars that we have had, and we've made them go longer, and I'm incredibly thankful that we have people who are looking very closely at what we're doing.
awesome, thank you. Thanks. Chief Business Officer's report.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Sorry, I was getting things
All
organized.
set up.
I don't know if this is on or not.
Listen, we're here
Gage,
for
am
you.
I on? I'm loud, so it doesn't matter. All right, so first order of business tonight that we have is we have some guests in the audience tonight. So, I don't know, about 2 months ago, Mrs. Epple reached out to me and she said, CJ, the Ohio School Board Association has this awesome thing for businesses that help school districts. And with your help, I'd like to apply for this, for some of our businesses. Can you talk to me about some of these businesses and how they make things happen and what they do? And I was like, oh, absolutely, this is awesome. So because of that hard work that she had done, we were able to get some awards for some local businesses in our community that are always there to support and always there to help whenever we ask. So it's called the OSBA Business Honor Roll, and it could be businesses large or small, corporate-owned, family-run. They play a key role in supporting the community and local schools, from helping schools with in-kind or financial contributions, donating to scholarship programs, supporting extracurriculars, offering internships, opportunities, volunteering in the schools, sponsoring field trips. Businesses can contribute in many ways. So tonight, it is our honor to present PERMCO with the OSBA Business Honor Roll Award. This evening, we have Holden and Emily from PERMCO. If you could come up, please. As they're coming up, I'd just like to describe some of the things that has been done by PERMCO for the school district. Number one, they have participated in our career fair, our inaugural one last year, and again this year. They have been baseball and softball sponsors for the signs for 2 years running. They solely sponsored graduation last year to the tune of $4,000, and they are a half sponsor this year for graduation, $2,000. So just in funds in the past 2 years, they've donated over $7,000 to the school districts that directly impact students.
Yep.
Directly impact students. And I couldn't be happier to have the relationship that we have with PERMCO. I think the feeling's mutual. I like to think
Not to
that.
put you on the spot.
You guys have been super supportive. Every time we call, you answer. Bryce Dalton has been awesome to work with as well. So we'd like to present you these awards this evening for helping Streetsboro City Schools. Big picture here. Andreas. Mrs. Apple, get in here. Come on.
Get in there, Mrs. Apple.
Good job, thank you.
That's teamwork right there. Excellent. Thank you.
I just want to say we really appreciate the opportunity to show out for the community, especially the school of Streetsboro. I'd like to throw a little story in there. My girlfriend's sister is on the softball team, and she's like, "Oh, I'm having a game in Streetsboro," and I was like, "Oh, okay." And I knew we had done some sponsorships, so when I went to the softball fields and everybody was playing, I was like, "Oh my gosh, like it's Permco."
Yeah.
And it was truly such a proud moment that we can play a part in the community. And I know the Shell family appreciates and wants to help the community. So in any future endeavors that we have through Streetsboro Schools, we'll be there to support. And I know, working with the Shell family and working with the management at Permco, this is something that's a priority and a need for us because that's truly who we are as people, and it's engraved in our culture. So again, thank you.
Excellent.
you.
Thank you so much. Listen, I've been saying for 20 years, it takes a village.
It takes a village.
It takes a village.
And, I mean, it's without hesitation. When I call or send an email, they've been fantastic. So we're very fortunate to have some of these businesses in the community. We have a few others that will be awarded in these too, but we're spacing them out a little bit so everybody gets their moment.
Absolutely.
To shine, because it's important that they do. So thank you guys so much again.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
And I told them they didn't have to stay the whole meeting. So.
No, yeah, you don't have to
More than
stay.
welcome.
You're done. You're off the hook.
No, thanks for coming.
You as well.
Thank you. All right. Can I please have Mr. Stitzel, Shauna Rinn, and Dana Grego to the stage? Dan approached me last week and he said, "Hey, we got this really cool thing that we've been doing in kindergarten with technology, sponsored by the PTA. I don't want to steal all his thunder, but he's like, I'd really like to present.
Yeah.
Can I please get on that agenda to present soon?" And I was like, let's do it. So the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Let me see if I can get this going here.
I think Dan just likes hanging out with us.
I know. It's become my Thursday thing. So I'll give a little intro before we jump into it. We are going to talk about Rocket Adventures, and CJ mentioned it's something that, there is tech integration in it, but it is more than that. There's a lot of different aspects of things that the students were able to choose from. The tech side came a lot more in the actual planning and getting the students to kind of vote on what they wanted to do. But what it is we had a PD day in the fall, and Missy McLean came, and she talked about many different topics, but one that really resonated with us was relationships with adults beyond just the ones that are kind of expected. So beyond the ones that are maybe at home or at a relative's house, or the normal, let's say, teacher-student relationship. So after that presentation, I work with the kindergarten a lot, so naturally I just went and sat with them. And we were talking, and Dana and Shauna and Allison and all the members of the kindergarten team, we talked about how, what can we do? What can we do? Can we bring all of our skills and all of our hobbies and talents and things together to give the students in kindergarten an opportunity to interact with adults and their peers in a way that kind of introduces them to new ideas and gives them a little brain break maybe at the end of the week, because curriculum, even at the kindergarten level, is very structured. So we came up with Rocket Adventures, and it was kind of an idea that I had talked to someone in my role in a different district, and she had reached out to me to help her organize the data. I figured that's what I like to do. And so I was like, hey, I actually have an idea. We could do something here. So how do we do this? So I talked a little bit about this. I'll let Dana talk a little bit too. I know she really wants to. She's super excited.
She is super excited.
I prefer 5-year-olds
I know.
over adults any day
Isn't
of the
that
week.
so funny?
I'm just going to pretend everyone's a 5- and 6-year-old. So we met with Dan right after the PD. We had a breakout session. We started brainstorming different ideas as a team. And then Dan made us this nice Google slide to show our kids, to tell them, like, these are your options you can do. And then the kids, we called them all up individually and asked them for their top 3. We wanted to make sure every kid got into something that interested them. And then Dan worked all of the tech magic and made our groups for us and made it that every kid was in one of their top 3 choices. Then we sat down as a team again with Dan and we set up our dates and times. We had backup plans ready for if someone was out absent or we had a split class. The amazing PTA donated supplies to our adventures, and we started rolling. Yours is up first.
What would go through the choices the student had? We have some pictures so you can see the students and just kind of talk about it. And then at the very end, we'll just kind of talk about our plan for next year and how we can make it even better. So the group that I did with the students was robot coding. Go figure again. And so a couple years ago, Beth Lapis and I received a grant to buy some Ozobot robots. And they're really good for introducing coding to students. It's kind of a color coding. So what I did with my group is we played Simon Says the first day to kind of introduce, like, when you tell, when you're coding, if you don't give the right code and you might do something wrong, it's actually very similar to Simon Says. And then the students color coded to get the little robot to speed up, turn around. Our big goal as a group was to create this giant track, and that's what you'll see on the side here. And all the students created their own individual portions of the coding, and then we put it together to see if we could successfully, as a team, get it all the way down. And we did, which was really fun. But you'll see it's a really quick video, but you can just see the excitement. Like, they were just so excited for the robot to actually move. It's literally a 2-second video. But it was just really fun. And in talking to Shauna, one of the students in her class, this was something that he really has interest in, and it's not something they're going to get all the time, especially at the kindergarten level. So it was really cool. And we just had really fun conversations with the students. It was funny. We'd ask about their favorite ice cream, and they'd be like, "Stop asking me. I want to do this." I'm like, "Okay, sounds good." There we go. Lauren Schwarzenegger did magic tricks with the students, which was really cool. They were actually, like, really good because we'd come back with our groups and the kids would have, like, floating cups in their hands and their crayons would be disappearing and coins would pop out on, wherever, and they'd bend things, and it was wild. So there's some images there, some pictures of the little students. They were all together, but she, same thing. They got together, they sat together as a group, and then she actually created, she told me the other day, she created, like, a set of all the magic trick things to then, so that the students could show their class. They could then, share what they learned in their little group.
So Mrs. Ross did painting with the kids. So they got to explore with different types of paints, watercolors, mixing the colors, learning how to mix primary and secondary, finger painting, and their ending thing was that all the kids had a mini canvas and they got to make their own creation to take home. She said it was great. A few spills, messes here and there, but that's kindergarten, so we're kind of used to that. But the kids all loved it. One of the favorite things, too, was when every time we came back to our homeroom, we would sit down and talk about, like, what did you do? I'd call on each group, and they would love to tell me, I made this today, and I made this today. And it was great to watch them share and bring their paintings back when they dried and show everybody. Mrs. Eibler's group did crafts. So they used the perler beads, where they got to make their own perler bead design, and then she ironed them. They painted rocks, they made rainbow heart sun catchers, and used pony beads and pipe cleaners to make designs and creations. And I thought this picture was cool because while some of the kids were putting the pony beads on the pipe cleaners to make things, this kid used the pony beads differently to make this beautiful butterfly instead of putting them on the pipe cleaners, which I thought was neat that they looked at it a different way. I did puzzles with the kids. I'm kind of a puzzle fanatic. It's really sad. But so our group did group floor puzzles. Every week they worked with a different friend to do puzzles. And then they also got to design their own little 24-piece puzzle with Sharpies and make it. I was very humbled by a 6-year-old's 24-piece puzzle that I couldn't solve because it was too hard. And just sharing from our experience, my group, the first week, we sat down and we were talking about, like, tell everyone your favorite color. We're trying to learn about each other. What's your favorite ice cream flavor? And I had a student in there who said, we started just talking, and I just let him go. And he said, I used to go get ice cream all the time with my mom, but my mom died. And I just looked at this kid, because my mom died when I was in high school, and I just said, me too, because I don't share that with 6-year-olds often.
Yeah.
But I just said, me too, and he just kind of gives you this look. And I said to Dan in the hallway right after that, I was like, this is why we're doing this with these kids.
Absolutely.
Like, we opened up the communication lines more for these guys, and it was great to watch. But they had a blast doing puzzles, and my puzzle-loving heart enjoyed it way too much.
So Miss Cummings did friendship bracelets, and during her Rocket Adventure, they designed a bracelet on paper, and then they made multiple bracelets with different colors and patterns, and they met new friends from other classrooms. And then Miss Martin, she did more of like a STEM building Rocket Adventure, and one of the activities, they used toothpicks and marshmallows to make igloos after reading the Curious George book. And they did toothpick and Play-Doh building. And then one of the activities that she did, they used different materials, and then they tried to see who could build the tallest tower with those materials. And then I did, I called it food science, and Mrs. Klein helped me. She's the food expert. And once the children were placed in my group, I drafted up a letter to the parents, and I listed all the items that we were using, and I got parent permission, and they signed off on, okaying everything that we did. I did find online a speech pathologist who had simple recipes, but she then turned them into visual recipes. So the kids used the visual recipes, and we worked together to make the items. We talked about kitchen safety and cooking tools that we would use. We made snow Play-Doh, English muffin pizzas. We did strawberry banana smoothies, so everything was made from scratch. The last thing that we made was fresh lemonade, and they really enjoyed squeezing the juice out of the lemon and pouring it into the water, and then we gradually added the sugar to make it sweeter, and they did not like it at first because it was very sour, but in the end, they loved it. And we made chocolate bird's nests. And one of the things that was amazing is the PTA funded my entire Rocket Adventure. And every time that we met, the Wednesday before, they would drop off all the ingredients. So I'm really appreciative for the PTA because I wouldn't have been able to do it.
Right, that's awesome.
Yeah, so just some feedback we got from students as closing. These are just some quotes that, and I love it. I mean, they're very kindergarten quotes. Like, I had painting, and I liked because it got to make a rainbow. And, I like to do puzzles now, and I'm doing the puzzles. Mrs. Gregor gave me a lot. So the students really appreciate, and there's quite a few here from all the different groups, but students really appreciated it and are, reflecting on it. Dana and I were talking the other day, and this is something that we just want to continue to grow.
For sure.
We felt it was important to share with the board and share with the community because, a lot of times some of these things can be pretty heavy. And so it's exciting sometimes just to see these things that are happening for 45 minutes every 2 weeks. And that 45 minutes was definitely a highlight of all of ours just because they were so excited and they had so much fun. And then, like Dana said, I think one of their favorite parts was just sharing with their classmates what they got to do. And so next year our intention is to keep it the way it is, but also let the kids kind of have a couple different throughout the year. This was kind of our pilot year, so they'll do robot coding for a few weeks, they can do food science for a few weeks, whatever, so they can try different things. So we just wanted to share. You are all more than welcome to come next year and make some pizzas or code some robots or whatever you want to do.
Sign us up.
Thanks for
Yeah,
having us.
really.
Good?
Thank you
Excellent.
so much. I think this goes back to what Mr. Dabaugh was saying. Obviously, we have to talk about finances and all the boring stuff, but it's important. But I really want these meetings to be teacher and kid focused. And I just am so thankful that you took the time out to come back to school and share this with us and with the community because it gives us all great things to talk about. you know, outside of the not-so-fun things to talk about. So I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Well, and it's awesome for their relationship building. Dana, like you mentioned, you know, there are things that are shared that you may not know or they may not be comfortable, and you connect. I mean, this goes beyond getting an A on something or an acceptable grade. This is you're building and teaching them how to build relationships, and that's huge. Thank you.
Thanks, team, for being here tonight and making that presentation. I know if you watch these meetings or just have been around me, you've heard me say often that school is supposed to be fun.
Yep.
And that's an example of some outside-the-box thinking and school being fun. And it's also showing what Tracy just said. It takes a village and a community, and there you have technology, the kindergarten group, elementary, PTA, operations, everybody coming together to make it happen. And we're fortunate and blessed to have the PTA that we have that is willing to donate all those items to make it happen. So we felt that that was important to share this evening. So thank you guys very much. So a nice segue to squeezing of lemons and too much sugar and lemonade.
It's my favorite day of the year.
Is the
coming
biggest
up.
day coming on up. And as Mrs. Kravitz is making her way to just kind of give a rundown of Lemonade Day, I'm going to share that myself and Mr. Johansson had the distinct honor of sitting on the Lemonade Day loan board.
Oh.
And that, I will do that every single year. Mrs. Bethany
Why do I
reached
feel
out
like
to us.
you gave all the loans out and Andrea said no to all of them?
Yes. We had so much fun with it. Community partners, Huntington Bank and Premier Bank were there. And
Cool.
they came with like their nice tablecloths and a whole table full of candy. And Andreas and I just said, yes, we'll do it. We didn't really, like, we knew kind of what we were going to do, but we didn't know, like,
You had
we
no
did all this
candy.
stuff. We show up, no candy, no
No
tablecloth.
tablecloth.
You know, we walk in and the kids are like, oh boy, what are they doing here? Here we go. And so we sat down and Michelle was quick to tell us, like, hey guys, you can't say things like, now if you don't pay the loan back,
Correct. Yeah, you're not
well,
allowed.
how are you going to make that happen? We know where you go to school. We know where you eat lunch. We transport you, and we have your Wi-Fi connection.
Right.
But the kids were great sports. They had so much fun with it, and I think we were probably the favorite group for them to sit in front of. At the end of the day, Mrs. Shea was awesome and brought us suckers to put on our table, so it wasn't so plain.
My youngest was the part of the first Lemonade Day. He was in Kathy Bentley's class the first year she did it, and it's amazing.
It's awesome. It was like the kids came dressed up in shirts and ties.
Oh, it's so
and,
fun.
I mean, it was just so fun. So, and I'll just because everyone on here knows Andreas, he started every conversation with, who's in charge here? So that was fun.
Who's running your show?
Yes, who's in charge here?
Oh,
So,
Nellie.
Yeah. He's not exaggerating about any of that.
I believe all of
Literally.
it. Totally
I know
believe
what
it.
bus you
It was
ride, so
awesome.
I'll know where to find you if you don't pay us back. Mind you, it's not their money. They're just the approval board for other money that was borrowed.
Right.
But that's okay.
life lessons, Michelle.
That's okay.
Life
I
lessons.
know, I know. The kids had a blast. It was cool though to see, since we're talking about the loan board part of it, it was really cool to see the kids get nervous, legitimately nervous, going into the cafeteria. They were all set up. But like good nervous. So like
Yeah.
Mrs. Bentley and I were sitting outside the cafeteria with them as they waited to go in and coaching them up. You know, like, this is good. Yeah, you should be a little bit nervous. Yeah, you've prepared. Some of the groups had little note cards. It was great. And Kathy Bentley mentioned that when I was talking to her today about sharing with you guys about Lemonade Day. She said, oh yeah, Logan was in my first group I ever did this with.
Yes.
And she's just phenomenal. It's been great to
Yeah.
have her. She was out last year. So it's been great to have her back this year, bringing extra things to this year's Lemonade Day. So just a couple quick things about it. It is this Saturday. As you can see, if you've been on the district website, it is real proud right at the top of the page there. So this coming Saturday, all throughout around Streetsboro, and if you scroll a little bit further down, there's the flyer with, I can scroll, right?
It's also attached.
I've already downloaded it to my phone. I'm ready. I got to go to the
Perfect.
bank.
So the flyer that the
Make my
teachers made is on here. So those are all the locations throughout Streetsboro and all the different times. So as you can see, that's a lot of locations and all those times. So that's because we've got almost every single one of our kids participating this year in a group. So there's groups of anywhere between 3 and 5 students. They had to come up with their entire business plan. So the whole project is focused on, there's language arts skills involved because they had to speak in front of the loan board. There's social studies involved with all the financial aspect and the, planning of everything, and math as well. So the whole thing kind of starts a while back with Mayor Broska comes in and does a proclamation. So May 11th is the official proclaimed Lemonade Day in Streetsboro. And our students, just so you know, they had to come up with a plan of what they're going to save, what they're going to keep and be able to spend, and what they're going to share and donate to an organization. So that's really cool. They had to plan all that out. They're very excited to actually get to profit and keep some of the money, but their parents were also encouraged to set up a savings account for them if they don't already have one for some of the money. Lastly, I wanted to mention, just curious, how much do you think last year were the total sales from Lemonade Day?
Gosh.
4,000, I don't know.
Throw a number out.
I know, I can't, I know what Logan raised, however many, I mean, he's 21 now, it's been a long time.
Any guesses?
12,000.
12,000.
You're close. Almost $11,000 in lemonade
That's
sales last year.
amazing.
And it's gone up every single year. And so the amount then that's being donated by these kids has gone up every single year.
Yeah.
So we are hoping that we can break that record this year as well. So I hope to see as many of our community members out this Saturday. I will be out and around as much as I can around our other activities. We also have a group of girls, side note, who are in our Girls on the Run group that meets after school twice a week. They are running a 5K on Saturday, so I'll be out there first at 8 a.m. supporting them. So that's at Canal Park, where the Rubber Ducks play in Akron. So we'll have a whole group of girls with some of our staff running on Saturday as well. So lots of ways to support our kids
The
this
best
week.
part about Lemonade Day is if you plan it correctly, it's not just lemonade anymore. You can
Oh,
get,
no, it's
you can get a
everything.
hot dog, and you can get a snack, and you could have all of your meals from
Yes.
between 10 a.m. and 6 p.m.
I ate way too much
All day,
last year.
all day.
I was like, I cannot drink another sip of lemonade.
Yes.
Yeah, they do a great job, and the stands
do.
they'll be decorated, there'll be music. It's very, very cool.
Very cool.
That was all part of when they presented to the loan board. They would tell us what other items they were going to sell. We were asking, like, what's the cost of that? And then we asked, how is the breakdown going to go? What's going to be profit? And then what are you going to do with the other funds? And Andreas and I think we were successful, at least with one or two groups, in telling them they needed to go back and renegotiate with some of their vendors
Yes.
for the pricing that they were getting. I won't name any names, specifically though, one person who was going to make cookies for the group that may or may not be a district employee. They were like, we're going to give them $20. We're like, no, you're not going to give them $20.
Correct.
Go back and renegotiate. So we're curious to follow up with that group.
I love it.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Michelle.
I
All
hope
right,
the weather holds
then,
out for them.
Quickly, we have Lisa School of Dance on here for approval this evening for facility rental. They're returning many years. They do a great job, and they have a vested interest in our own facilities, so we never worry about them. And then we have VFD insurance approval that we're asking for the chiller system here. This is the gift that keeps giving, unfortunately. So we have a 2-compressor system, right? And so we replaced one of the compressors as part of the insurance claim. And then we had to replace circuit 1 VFD, which was hooked up to the other compressor. At that point in time, we weren't quite through insurance yet. We weren't sure how much we were going to be able to pay for all of the work that needed to be done. So Gardner at the time put some new IGBT modules in circuit 2 VFD with the hopes that when the compressor came back and they fired it up, when we got it installed and they fired it up, that VFD drive would kick back on because circuit 1 was fried. We had to do a whole new circuit there. So compressor gets installed, we go to kick it on, it fired up for a second and then died. So we went through the insurance process again. This is covered through insurance, the new VFD. As soon as we order it, they'll work on getting the installation date. We do still have air conditioning in this building. It's running off of 1 compressor and 1 circuit, which is not uncommon, so it's not that this is something weird. For years, it has run off of just 1 compressor. So we're hoping that when that VFD gets installed, we'll be back to a 2-compressor system and everything will be functioning properly. So these are the steps that we just have to take. They're formalities, even though it's going through insurance, we have to follow this process in order to make everything happen through the treasurer's office.
Okie dokie.
And then the food service report is attached. I know it's Tracy's favorite, so
It's my favorite.
you could go ahead and look there.
It's my favorite.
Thank
It's the
you.
first thing I go to every time I open an agenda. Oh, is that Tuesday?
Oh, yes, Boba Tea, food service Tuesday, high school, May 14th.
Listen, there was
Strawberry
burrito, there was
lemonade. I don't
burrito
know
day.
what boba is, no clue, but Andrew says it's good, so I guess I gotta try it.
I don't know, the whole
Oh,
texture
Gage is
thing
giving
freaks me
the
out.
thumbs up, he's pumped for it, okay.
All right, cool.
Excellent.
Well, thank you. All right, let's move to board reports. I do have an update, thanks to Mr. Brian Violi. They had their recent meeting at Maplewood, and I just wanted to highlight a few things of some other awesome Streetsboro students that are there. So the third quarter honor roll came out, and we have the most by far from Streetsboro that are attending Maplewood. So kudos to these young men and women. We had 13 seniors and 15 juniors on this report for the honor roll. So kudos to them for third quarter, and I hope they keep it up. And then Maplewood Career Center is also having their senior award ceremony for the class of 2024 on May 28th at 7 p.m. And that's going to be at the Kent State MAC Center. So I believe that is all I have. The board reports. Tracy, Ms. Campbell?
I do not have any reports tonight.
Okie dokie. Mrs. Apple?
I'll make up for it. So athletics.
I'm gonna need a snack.
Yeah, you probably will. Baseball. The baseball team is currently 10-5. They finished second in the MAC. They swept Cloverleaf last night, which was a huge win. They will host Girard in the first round of the OHSAA sectional tournament on Monday at 5 p.m. Softball, their team is currently 11-14. They are playing Rocky River tonight in the first, actually got moved, tomorrow night in the first round of the OHSAA sectional tournament. The track team, the boys track team is currently 3-3. Girls track team is 5-2. Both teams are competing in the MAC championship, part of which was held last night, and the remainder will be held tomorrow at Woodridge. Last night they had prelims in some races and some conference finals. It's kind of an odd event, but it works. We had some kids that placed last night in the finals. Senior Kaylee Lilly came in third in discus with an impressive throw of 104 feet 1 inch. Carmen Marcini, who is a freshman, came in second in the long jump with a jump of 16 feet 4 inches. And the girls 4x8 team of Maddie Hayjack, Meredith Matt-Mueller, Kara Tiller, and a girl named Kendall Epple placed third with a time of 10 minutes and 16 seconds. We have numerous athletes competing tomorrow night. The team will then travel to Cortland Lakeview for their district meet on May 16th and May 18th. In other news, the OHSAA has announced new divisional tournament assignments for winter sports. The boys and girls basketball teams will be competing in Division 4 next year, which is 2 levels lower than we have competed in the past. This has been all over the news, but former Streetsboro football player Michael Hall Jr. was recently drafted with the Cleveland Browns in the second round. Michael played 3 years at Ohio State before getting drafted. He's a 2020 graduate of Streetsboro High and led the Rockets to 2 playoff wins and 2 conference championships. Michael was a 2-time All-Ohio player at Streetsboro, and we will be hosting a Mike Hall Junior Community Day event on Saturday, June 22nd from 9 to 11 in the stadium. And for academics, our state testing is complete, so we are just waiting for the results.
Excellent.
AP tests and MAP assessments are in process, and the elementary students will be starting One Book, One School next week, which is spearheaded by Missy Oyer, who is our literacy coach. The kids at both SCS and DEFR look forward to this event every year.
Nice, thank you.
That is it.
Okay. Ms. Rich?
I have no updates at this time.
Okay. And Ms. Scott? Mrs. Scott?
I don't have really anything for legislative updates, but the Education Foundation will be meeting next month. We have a couple grants to review, and just to recap, at the senior night, we gave away 3 scholarships. It was a really nice night to attend and see a bunch of similar names be called, but a wide variety in the end. Certainly encourage all those that are going to be seniors next year to
Yeah.
look into potentially winning some awards. There's a lot to be offered, a lot of support by different community members or school members, so please just write an essay. It's really not that
Yeah,
hard.
that's right.
And it is honestly really rewarding to read those essays as well, because it's nice to see all the hard work the kids
Yeah.
are doing and the good experiences they're having in our district. That's it.
Very good. Thank you so much. That concludes the board reports. Moving on to consent agenda. It is recommended the Board of Education approve consent agenda items B through O. A motion?
I'll move.
Second.
We have a first and a second. I just want to highlight in our discussion, the donations. Again, I think we've had a good representation of what it takes to keep a district moving, and I just wanted to, again, I know Permco's on here. We have other, Giannino's is always amazing to this district anytime that any of our sports teams or anything needs anything, so they're on here. Just across the board, many great donations. So I just wanted to say thank you to everyone that has donated to the district. And I think that's all I wanted to highlight. Any other discussion?
I would just like to, it's a little premature, I know we're not quite done with school yet, but we're approving the graduating class of 2024. So just would like to congratulate those kiddos and their families for getting them through.
I would just like to thank Graphic Expressions for donating the vehicle wrap, that
Yes.
wrapped Rocket Mini. It looks incredible. If you've seen Rocket Mini rolling down the road, it looked suspect prior to the wrap. It no longer does. So great job to Amanda Hall and Officer French for making that happen. Big shout out to them.
And there was also a sizable donation to the reading program at SCS by a global appearance partner. I think that is something that we should also recognize, as well as the Geist family, or Geist Foundation.
Cool. Any more? Anybody?
That's it.
All right. Can I get a motion?
I already did that. Yep.
Go ahead, Mr. Haynes.
Mrs. Campbell.
Yes,
Mrs. Epple.
Board meetings are supposed to be
Bedford.
fun.
they are.
Yes.
They're in a school
Ms.
building.
Rich.
Say it again.
Ms. Rich.
Yes.
Mrs. Scott.
Yes.
Motion carries. Superintendent recommendations.
Thank you. I have three. Item A is recommended the Board of Education hire Missy Oyer as Assistant Principal at Streetsboro Elementary School, effective August 1st, 2024 through July 31st, 2027.
I'll move.
I'll second.
We have a first and a second. Mr. Dawbon?
Yes, I just wanted to say that we had some good internal candidates. I know that it was a very difficult decision to be made. Both of our internal candidates did an amazing job, but Missy really stood out for her leadership as reading coach and the things that she's done to help move the bar with teaching teachers different ways to teach reading. Also, she does a really nice job with PBIS. And we're really excited to have her supporting Gwen as Mrs. Wolf transitions to central office.
I agree. Mr. Haynes?
Mrs. Bedford.
Yes.
Mrs. Epple.
Yes.
Mrs. Campbell.
Yes.
Ms. Rich.
Yes.
Mrs. Scott.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Congratulations.
Item B, it is recommended the Board of Education approve the certified contracts for the 2024-2025 school year as shown below.
I will move.
I'll second.
We have a first and a second. Mr. Dawbon? Any discussion?
Nope.
Mr. Haynes?
Mrs. Bedford.
Yes.
Mrs. Campbell.
Yes.
Mrs. Epple.
Yes.
Ms. Rich.
Yes.
Mrs. Scott.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. And item C, it is recommended the Board of Education approve the classified contracts for the 2024-2025 school year as shown below.
I will move.
I'll second.
We have a first and a second. Any discussion? Mr. Haynes?
Mrs. Bedford.
Yes.
Mrs. Campbell.
Yes.
Mrs. Epple.
Yes.
Ms. Rich.
Yes.
Mrs. Scott.
Yes.
Motion carries.
That concludes my recommendations.
Thank you. On to treasurer recommendations.
All right, I have a few tonight.
Okay.
It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the following resolution submitting to the electors of the Streetsboro City School District the question of renewal of all of an existing levy for the purpose of current expenses pursuant to sections 5705.21 and 5705.25 the Ohio Revised Code.
I'll move.
Second. Scott, Mrs. Rich, sorry. We have a first and a second. Any discussion? Okay, Mr. Hain?
Just for clarification, this requires 2 readings, correct?
There's one, and then there's a different resolution next month.
Understood.
If this is passed.
Got it.
Any other discussion? Hearing none. Mr. Hayes?
Mrs. Campbell.
Yes.
Ms. Rich.
Yes.
Mrs. Bedford.
Yes.
Mrs. Epple.
Yes.
Mrs. Scott.
Yes.
Motion carries.
It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the following resolution submitting to the electors of the Streetsboro City School District the question of renewal of all of an existing levy for the purpose of current expenses pursuant to sections 5705.21 and 5705.25 of the Ohio Revised Code.
I'll move.
I'll second. We have a first and a second. Any discussion on this one? Hearing none. Mr. Haynes?
Mrs. Campbell.
Yes.
Mrs. Bedford.
Yes.
Mrs. Epple.
Yes.
Ms. Rich.
Yes.
Mrs. Scott.
Yes.
Motion carries.
It is recommended the Board of Education approve the amended appropriations for fiscal year 2024, and estimated resources will be adjusted as needed for permanent appropriations.
I'll move.
Second.
We have a first and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. Mr. Haynes?
Mrs. Campbell.
Yes.
Mrs. Epple.
Yes.
Mrs. Bedford.
Yes.
Ms. Rich.
Yes.
Mrs. Scott.
Yes.
Motion carries.
It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the May 2024 5-year forecast as presented and authorize the treasurer to submit the forecast to Ohio Department of Education and Workforce.
I'll move.
Second.
We have a first and a second. Any discussion on this one? Hearing none. Mr. Haynes?
Mrs. Bedford.
Yes.
Mrs. Epple.
Yes.
Mrs. Campbell.
Yes.
Ms. Rich.
Yes.
Mrs. Scott.
Yes.
Motion carries.
That's all my recommendations.
Thank you very much. Chief Business Officer's recommendations.
Thank you.
Welcome.
I have a few this evening. Item 1, it is recommended the Board of Education approve the facility rental agreement between Streetsboro City School District's Board of Education and Lisa's School of Dance as attached.
I'll move.
Second.
We have a first and a second. Any discussion other than what we already talked about? Mr. Haynes, please call the roll.
Mrs. Campbell.
Yes.
Ms. Rich.
Yes.
Mrs. Bedford.
Yes.
Mrs. Epple.
Yes.
Mrs. Scott.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Item number 2, it is recommended the Board of Education approve the purchase of 236 Acer Chromebooks and Google Chrome management license for $55,252.
I'll move.
I'll second.
We have a first and a second. Any discussion?
I did not discuss this above, my apologies. I should have, but this is just regular business here. We have a 5-year forecast for our Chromebooks. We need to upkeep them. We need to have new ones to give to students that are coming in and continue to refresh our fleet. We are very Chromebook heavy in curriculum now, like we
Yeah.
need them to do school. So
Yep.
this is part of that. The 5-year forecast for Chromebooks didn't, and I know that's been presented by Dan before, didn't quite call for this many, but in the coming years, that number is very large, so we're trying to offset some of that this year.
Okay.
Yep.
Mr. Haynes?
Mrs. Bedford.
Yes.
Mrs. Campbell.
Yes.
Mrs. Epple.
Yes.
Ms. Rich.
Yes.
Mrs. Scott.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Item 3, we did not put on the consent agenda because we have some folks up here that would not be able to vote.
Right.
So it is recommended the Board of Education hire the following summer custodians and student summer custodians.
Have a motion?
I'll move.
I'll second.
We have a first and a second. Any discussion? Okay. Mr. Haynes?
Mrs. Campbell.
Yes.
Mrs. Scott.
Yes.
Mrs. Bedford.
Abstain.
Mrs. Epple.
Abstain.
Ms. Rich.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank goodness there's enough of us.
Whew.
It was close for a second.
We're all just trying to get our kids to work.
We would have had a separate.
So they can pay for some of that gas money.
Absolutely.
And my final item of the evening, it is recommended the Board of Education approve the contract and resolution using the Ohio School Council's design and build HVAC solution with Gardner for a new compressor VFD for Circuit 1.
Motion. Motion? Was that
I'll
you?
move.
Scott?
Me.
I'll move. Oh, was that you? I'm sorry, I didn't hear it. Okay. Ms. Rich?
Ms.
I'll
Rich.
second. I didn't hear
I'll second.
it. We got it. We got it. We got it.
Didn't hear you. And just to clarify, this is being paid for by insurance.
Yes.
Okay.
We'll pay for it and we'll get reimbursed.
Correct. Yeah.
Technicality.
It's part of the
Technicality.
insurance claim, though, that's the point. Okay. Got it.
Mr. Haynes?
Ms. Rich?
Yes.
Mrs. Bedford?
Yes.
Mrs. Campbell?
Yes.
Mrs. Epple?
Yes.
Mrs. Scott?
Yes.
That concludes my recommendations.
Motion
This evening.
carries.
Thank you, board.
Yep, thank you. Moving on to new business. Do we have any?
Nope.
Okay, moving on to old business.
I'm not saying anything.
Me neither.
I
Go.
will say something. It is not about the digital side.
Okay, I was gonna say, at some point, the ship has to sail. Okay.
No, this is about a sign, though. We have done the masonry work and the foundation work at Henry Deffer.
Oh, good.
So that, the cap should be going on that. If not tomorrow, next week, weather dependent. But it looks really good. It matches the other signs. I'm excited that it's getting a little facelift over there, so.
Cool, good, thank you. All right, Board President recommendations. It is recommended that the Board of Education enter into executive session to consider the employment with respect to a public employee or official, to consider discipline with respect to a public employee or official, to prepare for, conduct, or review negotiations or bargaining sessions with public employees concerning their compensation or other terms and conditions of their employment, and to discuss details relative to security, arrangements, and emergency response protocols for the public body or public office. If disclosure of the matters discussed could reasonably be expected to jeopardize the security of the public body or public office with possible action to follow.
That's a mouthful. Whew. I move.
Second.
First and second, do we do anything else?
Yes.
Mr. Haynes?
Mrs. Campbell?
Yes.
Mrs. Epple?
Yes.
Mrs. Bedford?
Yes.
Ms. Rich?
Yes.
Mrs. Scott?
Yes. We have entered executive session as of 6:59.